some area with the polys.
Mm-hmm. So I think in this set of presentations, I was focusing more on the layout because that is not what we have ever reviewed for you guys earlier. Am I right? So the TAs have reviewed, but then at those times, density was never a constraint. You were just asked to place the devices and do some analysis. This was the first time that we put density as a constraint for you guys. Am I right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So some learning happened there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then what were we doing in the last class?
In the last class, we discussed about bit cell, and later on, we were discussing about the butterfly curve, about cell stability. We discussed. After that, we were discussing about the layout of SRAM, and after that, we discussed some circuit designs, circuit problems. Just we reviewed 7 problems, and later on, we were discussing. We were supposed to discuss something else. You said that we'll discuss later on.
Hmm. So see, there are there are different levels of learning that happen in any any ecosystem or in any place. Okay. The first level of learning, which we call as the most basic level, is called as what do you say? Knowing. You know that something exists. The second level, you learn the skills. So, what do you call as skills? In this DVD course, what would be called as skills?
Designing.
No. Skill is something like how to use a tool, how to use Virtuoso, how to use Eldo. That is a skill. Only when you know the skill, at least to some extent, you start to work on design. That to design verification. Idea is just verifying you are doing that. Okay. Then you start to work on design creation, where you're looking at new circuits, new topologies, new methods. Not exactly what you've done in the course yet, but uh, you know, using the knowledge of the course to go beyond what we've already discussed or what is available in the books. Okay, so that is what we call as design creativity. That level is called as creativity. Okay, and then we go to something which is called as uh, analysis and debug, or design analysis and debug. So when you go into debug mode, you start to understand your circuits, your systems better. Just give me a moment. My system seems to have, yeah. So when you go here, uh, where you say, analysis and debug, that is when we understand that, okay, you now know your subject well. Are you able to see this? And you will notice that in your engineering curriculum, there are many courses which just introduce you to the knowledge part of it. Some take you to skills, how to program and stuff like that. Some would give you designs that you have to verify. In some places you have to create. For example, you made the layout. So that was a creation. You had not seen a layout earlier. You started to create one independent without seeing anything else. And then you do analysis and debug. So in this course, my attempt is to take you through all the various levels of the knowledge pyramid. And that was what we were looking at last time, as to what is happening when systems are failing. Because only when you start to analyze failures will you understand the importance of creating the designs properly, or what to verify in your design, and so on. Okay, skills, etc. You will notice that even in your when you join a job somewhere or anything, skills will hardly be given to you. You have to learn the skills yourself. For example, in this course, we did give you some tutorials on how to use Eldo and how to use Virtuoso and so on. But that is only to handhold you a bit. My like if you would leave it to me, I would not give you anything. I would say, okay, skills is something that you have to learn. One cannot teach you Python language. I can teach you algorithms. I can teach you operating systems and them and stuff like that. I cannot teach you Python language in a course. So skill based courses जो होते हैं, they are very low level courses. And I do not want to defocus the energy of this course on learning just the skills. Skills anywhere, even when you go for a job, you will be asked to learn and acquire yourself. You will be given some training material, which was provided over here also. In fact, we did a little more than just giving you that material. We also had some sessions, but skills are to be acquired, and that is your responsibility. And that is where a good designer should then focus on design verification, design creation, debug, innovation, and so on. Okay, so that was what we were looking at in the last class. We were looking at why would circuits fail. Okay, today we are going to go beyond just that and say that, okay, it is not just the circuits that can fail. There are other mechanisms also, because of not just because of circuit design that circuits can fail. There are other reasons also because of which circuits can fail, and those failure modes we will look at today. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now all of us have heard about noise. And we know all about these sources of noise. We've talked about it in the clock jitter aspect. We've talked about it in the clock uncertainty part, that all these sources of noise exist. And the consequences could be increased delay or even spurious togglings and incorrect computations. Is this part clear? Like, I would not want to spend time on stuff which we have already discussed and is already clear, but I just put it here so that we consolidate those aspects also. It is what I mean to say is that circuits will not always fail just because of the topology that we have used. कि आपने keeper नहीं लगाया इसलिए circuit fail हो गया. That may not be only the case. There could be other reasons like noise. Any questions here?
No, sir.
Okay. Then I did mention to you about this curve, which we call as, what do we call this curve as? We discussed, I gave you the name last
Bathtub,
class.
sir.
Bathtub.
Bathtub, sir.
Bathtub curve. Why is it called bathtub curve?
Because it looks like a bathtub. Therefore.
It looks like a bathtub. What it essentially means is that when chips are just made, a lot of chips would fail. Like, they may work once or twice and then they will fail. Quite a few chips, the failure rate is high initially. Why is it so? Something was working, at once it failed. Within 1 week of operation, why would that kind of a thing happen?
Sir,
I
due
mean,
to
they were
availability.
just faulty chips. So, I mean, initially all the bad ones would get weeded out, and like the ones with the obvious flaws and all, so they would get weeded out in the first half, like in the
So वो
starting
तो
time.
देखो, जो जिनका टेस्टिंग के समय इनिशियल फर्स्ट टेस्ट ही फेल कर गया, उनको तो हमने यहाँ पे माना ही नहीं, वो तो पास में ही नहीं आए. These were the chips which were qualifying the first BIST runs. First test they qualified, and after some time they started to fail. Why would that happen?
Sir, maybe like we saw due to some in some of your lecture, you shared that metal interconnects are not actually proper. So in the testing phase, maybe they were showing the good results, but when we ran it for this much particular period of time, their metal contact got short circuit or something like that. So that particular area of the chip was not functioning. So overall, the chip became damaged.
Yes. So actually यही होता है. Due to manufacturing defects, what could happen is that there is a metal line like this. Initially it would work, okay, it would work, but now you see this was intended to be like this. It was intended to have much lesser resistance, but it actually got manufactured like this. Now, because it was intended to be a wider wire, you wanted to flow a lot of current through it. That lot of current experiences resistance, much more resistance than what was initially expected, and it would heat up the wire. Are you with me? Are you able to see this consequence of some wire being formed thinner than what it was intended to be? That it would heat up very fast? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So now what happens? The first time you run it, okay, this current flows, it heats up the wire, but it's okay. It experiences some resistance, there is wire drop, okay, fine. But due to heating, what happens is this wire also, this is copper finally, the copper atoms, they start to move also. हमने कहा था ना, copper diffuses very fastly in the semiconductor or whatever. So they also move. So what happens? This starts to pinch off. And after a few hours of operation, this connection actually dies. So ये ऐसा कुछ रह जाता है. And now the chip will not function. So इस तरह के जो manufacturing defects होते हैं, which are very high resistance defects, which may not impact running it once or twice, but will eventually fail. They fail in this region, infant mortality. Okay. After you've removed those lots from the, so the test that you do in this phase, it's called as burn-in test. So what is done is the set of dies are operated at high temperature and high voltage for, say, let us say half an hour, 1 hour, something like that. And because the temperature is already high, this heating, the part of heating is accentuated. Okay. And therefore, the dies which were supposed to fail in this duration will fail within within that half an hour or 1 hour of heating and testing. Okay. Usually हम इतना भी नहीं करते हैं. Usually हम heat करते हैं and we heat it for, say, let us say a minute or something like that, and then we bring it back and test. But the intent is to see if it would fail because of such reasons in early life. So burn-in tests are done to remove early life failures. Then dies that pass the burn-in phase would typically operate at a very low failure rate. Those failures may happen because of some defects, which were not high resistive defects, which were low resistive defects, but over time they degraded. And then once the aging sets in, we will talk about what aging is, then wear out starts to happen and your failure rate rises again. Okay. Now, what is this duration? What is the typical lifetime that you would want for a chip? Do you know?
10 years.
I would want infinite.
You may want infinite, but nahi, itna hota nahi hai. So for most applications, 10 years is what they look for. Okay. For applications like mobile phones, people are fine with 2 to 5 years also, because they know it thoda sa use karke it has to be thrown away. Thrown away means it will become obsolete. The market is such. Okay. But for applications like those in space, automotive, and so on, 10 years doesn't cut the cake. For those applications, you want it to be 15 or 20 years. But for practical purposes, you may say that agar koi interview mein puchta hai, you can still stay with 10 years, but you should know, and you can then add that, for some applications which have longer life, for example, automotive and space, the requirement from the customer ends maybe 15 to 20 years also. Okay. So you want to test that this good useful operational life is actually that duration. But you want to test it before shipping the part to the customer. How do you test it? You already have the hint for that.
Just sample some random chips from your lot and then just heat it up, and like you said, like you can accelerate the testing by heating them up and running at over voltage, and that 10-year thing can be reduced down to just like 128 hours of operation.
Yeah. So we discussed this last time also. I had given a very quick overview of what is called as accelerated life test. So what is done is, so see, burn-in would happen on every die. Burn-in you have to check on every die because you do not want any die to fail at customer end within first 10-20 days of operation. But accelerated life test is done on just a few samples. So what you do is, as Setu mentioned, you select a fixed sample, say 1% of the sample, 0.5% of the sample from a given lot and from every lot. Okay. And you heat it up, you put it in the oven, you operate it at very high voltage, and you do that for 168 hours. Okay. And then you see ki, are these samples from this given lot really working even after that time, 168 hours of high temperature operation. So if it happens, you say, okay, this is reliable and this will go up to 5 years. Great. Now, again, 5 years is just a number here. In some technologies, 168 hours, that is 1 week, may mean 5 years. In another technology, it may mean 10 years. And in a third one, it may mean 2 years only. So the process team would characterize that and would let you know. As a designer, they would already let you know what kind of testing is required. Okay. And if the customer requirement was less than 5 years or 5 years, after the OLT, that is accelerated life test results are available, you will ship out the parts to the customer. Till that time, till the time that life test is out, results of life test are out, the parts are there in your godown. You cannot ship them. Because to ship them, it will, and then realize that, oh, इस lot के अंदर तो defectivity ज़्यादा है, life of the product is less than 2 years, customer wanted 5 years, then to recall from the customer is a very big loss of face. है ना? So जब तक ALT test का result बाहर नहीं आता है, we hold the lots and we do not ship them. Only when those results are out, we ship the lots to the customer. Okay. For customers that demand or require higher lifetime, you test for another 200 hours or another 400 hours and see what is the failure rate. Okay. And this way you ensure that this bathtub curve is good enough and in line with the customer expectation. Okay. आगे बढ़े?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was what we just talked about, that typically people want 10 years and you cannot really wait for 10 years of testing, you know, so you accelerate it, you run it at high temperature, high voltage. So over here it is given that if I apply, you know, the system was expected to operate at 0.9 volts plus minus 10%. So 0.99 to 0.81 was the desired operational voltage. And by applying higher voltage, you could actually estimate the aging over time. Okay. So this is something that is typically done across industries there. Then why does aging happen? So there are multiple reasons. You may already have read some of those. Have you heard about hot carrier effects or NBTI or time dependent dielectric breakdown in any of your
Yes,
earlier
sir. We
courses?
studied about hot carrier effect in SSD.
Yeah. SSD लेकिन सारे बच्चे नहीं कर रहे हैं ना. So if you do SSD, you will definitely go into much more detail in that course. But I can give you a very quick intuition of what these are. Okay, because the course is not SSD. This is I'm just helping you with that top end of the pyramid where you should know how to debug. Okay, and therefore, for those of you who are interested in making a career in VLSI, for example, you should do SSD course. It is really kind of important. If you want to be a good circuit designer, you have to know the devices and how they behave. So see what happens. I have source, let us say drain, and there is this gate. Okay. Gate has this positive voltage. We're talking about an NMOS. Let us say it is applied plus 1.1 volts. This is at GND, and you have a lot of electrons going from here to here. Your device is on. So as the electrons move towards the drain, what also happens is that due to this positive voltage there, some electrons tend to move into the gate region also. So over time, a few electrons start to get embedded in the gate oxide. As soon as something gets embedded, some charge gets embedded in your gate oxide. Now go back to the first few lectures that we did on device physics. You would realize that VT of the device would change. Because the voltage that is now needed to be applied here to form that inversion layer would change. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
So if there are some charges trapped inside the gate oxide, then by applying any voltage at the gate, you will first neutralize the effect of those charges, and only then will you be able to attract the charges for the formation of inversion layer. Is this point evident to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what will happen to the threshold voltage of the device due to HCI? What will happen?
It should increase.
The threshold voltage would increase because now you have negative charges trapped in the gate. These negative charges will repel other negative charges to come close to the gate region, to the surface of the gate oxide. Am I right? So you have to apply more positive force to neutralize the effect of these negative charges, and therefore your VT would increase. Okay? So this is HCI. It primarily affects NMOSes. Now coming to NBTI. So until 45 nanometer, NBTI was the only thing that bothered us, but from 32 nanometers onwards, PBTI is also bothering us. So what is NBTI and PBTI? NBTI stands for negative bias temperature instability. What this means is that if there is a PMOS, which is permanently on or permanently off, whatever way you look at it, then there is some bias voltage that is applied here. See, the source is at 5 volts, the gate is at 0 volts. So there is a negative bias that you applied on the gate. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Now, at the surface of silicon and silicon dioxide, you realize that the lattice of the crystal is breaking. At the surface of the die, the lattice of the crystal is breaking because that's the end of the lattice. Otherwise, the lattice was a continuous set of bonds. यहाँ पे वो bonds टूट जाते हैं because there is no other silicon atom to connect to. Is this point obvious to you that the lattice would break at the edges, at the surface of the die? I'm waiting for acknowledgement.
Yes, sir.
Or question?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
So what you are saying is we have that oxide layer and then we have SiO2. So in that interaction portion, there is a discontinuity, right, sir?
I'm saying there is the silicon surface. There was a lattice here. That lattice cannot continue any further because there is the surface. There are no more silicon atoms to bond with. So atoms which are there on the surface, they do not have 4 silicon atoms to connect to. They have a few bonds which are dangling, not connected to any silicon. And this would happen with any lattice, whether it is silicon or carbon or any crystalline structure. This would happen. At the edges, there will be dangling bonds. That is what I'm saying.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So now at the surface, there are some dangling bonds. You deposited oxide over here, but these dangling bonds remained. As a part of our processing, processing the dyes, we also actually, bombard the wafer with hydrogen atoms. Why is that done? So that hydrogen would connect to these dangling bonds, so that these dangling bonds are no longer reactive. So one hydrogen one hydrogen atom can handle a dangling bond, a dangling thing. So over here, you actually also have some stuff like silicon hydrogen bonds. Now you apply silicon dioxide over here. Deposit silicon dioxide over here. When this negative bias is applied on the gate, what happens is these silicon hydrogen bonds start to break. Hydrogen starts to drift towards the oxide and embeds in the oxide. And these hydrogen ions, because अब इसका एक bond टूट गया, so these are like hydrogen ions. So they embed themselves in the oxide. So again, what would happen?
Change in VT, sir.
Change in VT, because now to attract holes over here, you need to apply further negative voltage, because these hydrogen ions will repel any positive charge, let us say. So that is NBTI. Similarly, in advanced technologies, 28 nanometer and lower, there is also, like, until 45, only NBTI was something that we as circuit designers were bothered about. Subsequently, we are also bothered about PBTI, because the same phenomena started to appear in the NMOSes also. Okay. Time dependent dielectric breakdown. Any idea what it is?
So as you would continuously apply the electric field or the current on the gate, it would over the time period the oxide would in a way degrade maybe. That
Yeah. So basically, oxide जो है कोई बहुत मोटा oxide तो है नहीं. We only have a few atoms or few molecules of silicon dioxide in this thickness. 665 nanometer logic technology that you were using, you know that in the LP technology, there was the gate thickness was 17 angstroms, which meant just 2 or 3 atoms, 2 or 3 molecules of silicon dioxide. So when you apply a voltage on the gate for a long period of time, what happens is over time, these these things, these paths in atoms, in these in between the atoms, start to have some trapped electrons, some stuff like that, and connections can start to form between poly and substrate. This is called as the dielectric breakdown. It happens over time. There is not much you can do about it. The only way to avoid it is using different material of the gate dioxide or using larger thickness, so that the time dependent dielectric breakdown is delayed further. Okay, but what this also means is that the EDDB kind of breakdown limits the maximum voltage that you can apply on the gate. See, if you apply 5 volts onto a dielectric which is just 17 angstroms thick, it will fail within a few seconds, microseconds possibly. So as you reduce the gate oxide thickness, you also reduce the voltage at which your devices can operate. Are you with me?
So
Yes, sir.
Yes.
but as we gradually came down to a lower technology process, like from 65 to 45 to 15, like as we move down, we gradually decrease the voltage supplied to the gate also, right? So in a way, could we say that we have in a way got rid of the TDDB effect slowly over the time,
No.
because like in a way reducing the voltage?
No. So for those of you who intend to do the memory design course in the next semester, we will talk about assist schemes, for example. Or those of you who are working on analog circuits, you will realize that for the analog circuits, the voltage of operation has not actually reduced. They still operate at 1.8 volts. So for those 1.8 volts devices, you use thick gate devices there. Okay. Things like charge pumps or level shifters, there you will definitely have spikes of voltages which are beyond the safe operating area, which can lead to dielectric breakdown. Okay. So even if we have reduced the operational voltage of the logic devices, there are parts from the circuit which operate at a higher voltage. Okay. And therefore it is important that we always take care of TDDB. So when we will talk about read assist and write assist schemes which require applying negative voltages or higher voltages across the gate source junction, gate source region, we will also need to take into account that circuits can start to fail because of TDDB. So आपने बाकी सारा circuit बहुत अच्छा बनाया है, but okay, dynamic logic में याद है we had those charge feed throughs which would take VDD, which would take the output node to more than VDD at times and lower than ground at times. So when that happens, your gate region is under stress, immense stress actually, and you want to avoid that. You want to avoid those overshoots in many ways. And dynamic circuits that you design could fail just because of TDDB, because you did not take care of these undershoots and overshoots. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Sir, can I
Yes.
say that this hot carrier effect can be overcome by introducing the positive ions in that oxide region?
कब introduce करोगे?
Sir, during manufacturing process, like.
So if you do it during manufacturing, then it means that at the time of manufacturing, the VT of the device will be 0 or lower VT.
Yes, sir.
Then due to HCI, this VT would increase. बात तो वही रह गई.
Okay, yes, sir.
What has happened? आपने जब डिजाइन करा T is equal to 0 पे, circuit was functioning because there were some delays. Now due to HCI or due to NBTI, the delays increased. And that is a botheration, because then, as we've already done in the sequential timing questions that we did in the class also, and the equations that we saw in the class also, that things will start to fail. Is it not?
Yes, sir.
आपका setup और hold time meet नहीं होगा थोड़े time बाद, and chip would fail. And this is called as aging failure.
Okay, sir. So basically, hot carrier is also time dependent. मतलब like जैसे जैसे chip का time बढ़ता जाएगा, so this hot carrier effect will be more dominating, right?
Yes, it is probabilistic event. Some electrons will jump in there and get trapped in the gate oxide. As time proceeds, more and more electrons would get trapped anyways, and they will change the VT to a significant level such that your circuit can fail.
Yes, sir. Understood.
So,
Yes.
so like we told, like when the electrons will move under the gate region, the repulsion will be more among the electrons. But we studied in the previous class that this effect is evident more in short channel devices, not in the long channel ones. So for the long channel devices also, BT would increase.
In the short channel devices, the velocity, saturation velocity is reached very fast. Even at low voltages, you reach saturation velocity. In long channel devices, velocity saturation बहुत देर में पहुंचेगा. So the gate length for which you have, for example, यहाँ पे electrons जा रहे हैं, तो by the time electron reaches here, just here, saturation velocity is reached. So all this region, it has a lot of kinetic energy and it can jump into the dielectric. For a long channel device, because the lateral field is not that high, it starts to gain velocity and it reaches saturation velocity only in this region. And it is only here that it will have the kinetic energy, for example, or beyond here that it will start to have the kinetic energy to jump into the dielectric. So the probability of it spoiling the dielectric is much lesser, or causing a VT shift is much lower. In a short channel device, almost the entire gate region you will start has got impacted by HCI.
So like in HCI, like the VT would like increase more in short channel devices than in long channel ones.
Yes, in long channel devices, you would not usually talk about HCI at all, because वो इतना negligible impact है HCI. HCI वहाँ भी हो रहा होगा if you apply very high voltages, but the impact is low because the lateral field is low. It's not as high.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so now you already have these slides where I've detailed about hot carriers and NBTI and TDDB. So you can look at these in more detail later also. Is that okay? Now we come to another failure mode, which is called as electromigration. How many of you have heard about this? No one?
No, sir.
So, yeah. So see, we talked that copper is a very ductile material. It melts very fast and it diffuses into silicon dioxide and all that. याद है हम barrier की बात कर रहे थे that we need to apply barrier along the wires, copper wires and so on. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what happens is, copper being copper, when a lot of current starts to flow through it, you see that there is a phenomena, or you start to call it as electron wind, that इतने सारे electrons जा रहे हैं कि वो wind की तरह लगते हैं copper atoms को. Okay, and when a large current flows through copper, this electron wind tends to push copper atoms along with it. Now, typically in an AC current, in a wire, you would have, if it's a wire, you will have current going here and you will have current going in the other direction also. Typically, that is how it is. आपका एक इन्वर्टर है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल यहाँ पे एक वायर है, इस पे लोड लगा हुआ है, तो जब आप चार्ज करोगे तो इस वायर में इस डायरेक्शन में करंट जाएगा, जब आप डिस्चार्ज करोगे तो उल्टी डायरेक्शन में जाएगा. तो क्या होगा, एक टाइम पे इलेक्ट्रॉन्स उधर पुश कर रहे होंगे, दूसरे टाइम पे इलेक्ट्रॉन्स इधर पुश कर रहे होंगे. सो थिंग्स वर्क फाइन. आर यू विद मी?
Yes, sir.
However, look at this. VDD to PMOS contact, or this NMOS to ground contact. In this region, electrons go only in one direction, or charge is flowing only in one direction. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
So what can start to happen is that if there is even a small defect, in the manufacturing, this kind of voids may start to happen, where, let us say, initially there was, suppose this was the wire and the contact there. This is, let us say, VDD का कुछ आप VDD का VIA1 है, यहाँ पे फिर contact आएगा कहीं पे and so on. So let us say initially there was some vacancy of copper, एक bubble रह गया था copper के अंदर. एक बार यहाँ पे कहीं पे कुछ बबल रह गया था, एक बार यहाँ पे कहीं some defectivity was there. But due to electron wind, what happens is copper atoms from here would gradually move here and they will fill up this bubble. They will fill up this bubble. But what happened? Two copper atoms had moved from this region to fill the bubbles or vacancies elsewhere, to diffuse basically elsewhere. Now, what this means? जहां पे पहले इतना सा resistance था, now because of additional vacancies, the resistance over here increases. As the resistance over here increases, what happens? In this region, the temperature would also increase more. As the temperature increases more, copper atoms become more mobile. So they start to fill vacancies farther away also. And slowly this starts to become a bigger void. And you see that आपका connectivity ही खत्म हो गया. You start to experience opens in your design. Are you able to see this?
सर ऐसे तो फिर जब मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो रही होती है, लाइक व्हेन द फैब्रिकेशन इज इन द प्रोसेस, सो सॉफ्ट बेकिंग और हार्ड बेकिंग भी हम करते हैं सर. उस टाइम का टेम्परेचर तो लाइक यू एक्सप्लेन्ड हियर कि कॉपर मूव किया, रेजिस्टेंस बढ़ गया तो टेम्परेचर बढ़ गया. तो सर सॉफ्ट बेकिंग और हार्ड बेकिंग के टाइम का तो टेम्परेचर इससे भी ज़्यादा होता है. सो
हाँ, तो इसलिए तो वो करते हैं. वो इसलिए तो सॉफ्ट बेकिंग और हार्ड बेकिंग करते हैं ताकि जो भी ये मूवमेंट है कॉपर की हो जाए और वो वहां पे बबल्स ना रहें. और अगर बबल्स आने हैं तो आ जाएं और मेरे पहले इन्फेंट मोर्टालिटी के टाइम पे ही मैं उनको पकड़ के परे कर दूं. That is the intent. But some bubbles will still remain. And copper will diffuse into those vacancies. And it will result in a void elsewhere. जहां पे वो डिफेक्ट थोड़ा सा भी ज्यादा था.
ओके सर.
ठीक है, जहां पे भी करंट डेंसिटी ज्यादा होगी वहां पे ये डिफेक्ट और बढ़ जाएगा बिकॉज वहां पे हीटिंग ज्यादा हो रही है. And it can lead to a failure. So this process is called as electromigration. This, in fact, is a very limiting failure. When we were designing memories in, I would say, even 28 nanometers, we were worried that we are enabling memories at 2 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, and so on. But if the system designer actually intends to operate the memory at 3 gigahertz continuously, then we know that the temperature would increase and electromigration limit would come. Okay, so we gave two kinds of timings. One timing that if you're operating continuously for a very long time, then you should operate at not more than 1.5 gigahertz. But if you want to operate only for a few minutes peak, okay, to handle the peaks, in those times you could operate even up to 3 gigahertz. So two kind of timings we started to give. Now the EDA tools are not yet evolved to take care of all that. So we did some internal tooling to manage this. But this is such a critical failure that आपके system की overall frequency को limit कर सकता है. Frequency मतलब current consumption को limit कर सकता है. Okay? Are you with me? Are you able to see this?
So sir, this electromigration effect is more dominating for clocks, for clock distribution network like H3, right? Because clock को तो
no, clock is both directions always. Do you see? Clock तो हर cycle में rise भी कर रही है, fall भी कर रही है.
अच्छा, yes sir, right.
है ना? तो clock network नहीं. It will always fail first at power supplies. If power supply metals and all other metals are formed exactly the same. Now, if in the clock network, by chance, there was a bigger void, then even though, there is movement of current in both the directions, this void will only increase over time and the clock can also fail. You are right. Because clock has activity factor of 1. It will experience wind most frequently. It will require a lot of charge to flow through it at all times. So heating भी ज़्यादा होगी clock network की. You're right. But if everything is formed similarly for the clock network and for power networks being DC, they are more susceptible. Okay? Is this
Okay,
clear?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then हमने कहा कि DC के लिए इलेक्ट्रोमाइग्रेशन है, बट क्लॉक नेटवर्क फॉर एग्जांपल उसमें हीटिंग फिर भी ज्यादा होगी, है ना? So that effect for AC wires or for wires through which AC signals are moving is called self-heating. This results in more resistance and therefore can also lead to failures. But self-heating wale failures will appear probably before even electromigration failure starts to set in the clock network. ठीक है? Then overvoltage failures can happen. Oxide dielectric breakdown we just talked about. There is an entire field of research on electrostatic discharge, where as soon as you touch a die, due to the charge that we carry on ourselves, on our bodies, that charge starts to get discharged through those pins in the die. Huge amount of charge needs to be sunk, and that can lead to failure. ESD discharge it's called, and this electrostatic discharge fails many chips. Okay, so पूरा जैसे ST नोएडा के अंदर ही there is a big team, big नहीं, बहुत बड़ी नहीं, but there's a team that focuses only on ESD structures which would not fail, which you would put alongside all the input pins in a die, so that the die is safe from ESD failures. And it's a very this ESD team requires very good understanding of silicon and movement of how charge moves and these resistances and all those things that we've talked about sparingly in this course. Okay. Punch through is a device design issue where, for example, आपका source or drain है और इनके depletion regions हैं. Now you apply voltage, these depletion regions would extend, and it can happen that they start to join, and this can lead to punch through. Okay, so again, punch through को avoid करने के लिए typically people would use lightly doped drains ताकि वो चीज कम हो जाए, उसका effect कम हो जाए. And दूसरा, you have halo implants, super halo implants, and so on that are done. And you basically, it's device design that would be done to avoid this. This also puts a limit on the maximum voltage that you can apply between source and drain. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, like you said, halo implants. So I actually don't understand how VT implants also work. So can you explain
Yeah.
both the implants?
Nahi, Rayan, it's a topic which would take at least 2 hours to even touch. Halo implants and super halo implants is best if you study them in either solid state devices course or in the electronics course.
When sir
it's a
teaches
detailed topic.
DIBL effect and GIDL effect, he discussed halo implant in SSD course.
Yeah, so there are halo implants, there are super halo implants also that happen. So that are used and they are commonly used today. So उसमें time लगेगा Rayan. I cannot. You can do self study, but I cannot take the time of the class to teach that.
Okay. And VT implants?
VT implants तो regular VT आपने doping कर दिया substrate region की. So there is the substrate region. N plus है यहाँ पे N plus है. If you put say more boron atoms over here, what happens? There are more holes available. है ना? So more holes available मतलब there are more vacancies. Things can यहाँ से अगर आपको यहाँ पे inversion layer create करना है तो उसकी probability high या low हो जाएगी depending on how you dope the substrate. So VT implant is how you have doped the substrate region so that the availability of minority carriers is there or not there. ठीक है, that is VT implant. Halo implant and super halo implants are, so typically there are different kinds of VT implants. If I just talk about the density of the impurities, this is uniform VT implant. This is retrograde. This is super retrograde. Okay. Then there are VT implants which are like this. There are VT implants which are 2D in nature, which are halo implants. There are VT implants. So this is ये linear है. Linear है मतलब आप किसी भी जगह पे नीचे जाओ आपको यही प्रोफाइल दिखेगा. When I say 2D implants, then what happens is that the center one may be this profile, the side one would be uniform profile, and the third one could be retrograde profile, so to say. So these are 2D implants. These 2D implants are called as halo implants. Then there are 3D implants also, which is कि even उसके अंदर भी नीचे भी जाके there are other dimensions that are taken care of, and that is called a super halo implant. So again, मैं इतना quickly आपको कुछ बता रहा हूँ कि आपको शायद कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आएगा, and I know नहीं आएगा because this is a detailed topic. The need of the halo implants in itself requires a context setting of at least half an hour to 1 hour. Okay, so it's best that you either pick up one of those books that are used in SSD, or you take up the courses and understand them there.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Latch up, I think we've already discussed earlier in one of the quizzes also, it seems. Hana? So latch up is just being reviewed over here, and it is so it is one of the oldest kind of failures that were observed even before NBT, IT, DB, anything else came. You know, in 1970s, this process was already well understood. This failure was already
Sir, I
observed.
observed the latch
Yes.
up problem in my project also when I was not connecting my PTAP and N1 and W. So from this concept, I understood the theoretical concept, but I was not able to connect this theoretical concept on my practical approach that I was doing in my project. So why it was so that I was getting latch up error?
You would get latch up error if you do not connect VDD and ground on the substrate. Because what that means, if you do not have this substrate connection over here, what we say, then we assume is that the substrate connection is farther away, which means R sub has increased. Similarly, if you R sub and R well have increased. So if you do not keep this connection over here, we assume it will take it from the farther away. So this R sub has increased and R well has increased. Now, even when you sink very little current in your BJTs, junction leakage जो भी करके आप बहुत थोड़ा सा भी current अगर आप leak करोगे, तो भी because this R well is large and this R sub is large, these NPNs and PNPs will start to get biased such that they now want to sink more current, and latch up will happen. When you put the substrate connections right there, essentially because you now need to travel much lesser. You know, the current path is right there, available right there. The resistance of the substrate R well and R sub would reduce, and you will avoid latch up. Is it fine? ये तो हमने पहले डिस्कस करा था, आपका टीएस के साथ भी काफी डिटेल डिस्कशन हुआ होगा शायद.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
ठीक है? Yeah. Now, latch up is also avoided by using what we call as guard rings. So when you have, so where are guard rings used? First, when you have circuits or regions where lots of substrate current is expected to flow. Okay, so you put a ring around it so that the substrate connection is very, very widely and profusely available in that region. You also use guard rings in circuits like sense amplifiers and any other analog circuits where you want limited and almost no impact of substrate noise. So by applying these, by putting these guard rings over here, what you essentially do is कि अगर यहाँ पे कहीं पे कुछ और source drain region पड़े हैं, कुछ है which consume current and which need or which lead to any fluctuations in the substrate voltage, you ensure that by putting a tap over here, this tap will take care of all those currents and will sink those currents, so that this gate region where my device is manufactured is not impacted. Okay, so guard rings are also used in all such analog circuits to reduce impact of noise on their operation. ठीक है? आगे बढ़े?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then what are these soft errors? What do you understand by soft errors? Hard errors क्या होते हैं और soft errors क्या होते हैं? तुक्का मार लो.
Soft errors could be occur errors like which might not be very relevant or might be very infrequent in a way as compared to hard errors. I mean, like hard errors are quite significant maybe in a chip, and soft errors might be some random occurrences of some errors.
Sir, maybe soft errors that we get, we are not worried about that. Hard errors are the errors which are which impacts our functioning more.
So maybe the
something like
hard
अगर
errors are
Prayas?
सर जैसे कुछ आयंस हैं वो जैसे आप बता रहे थे कि गेट में चले गए हैं, तो अगर हम पावर सप्लाई हटा देंगे और वो वापस से जैसे कैपेसिटेंस की चार्ज शेयरिंग से कुछ कैपेसिटर जो चार्ज है वो दूसरी मतलब डिस्पर्स हो जाता है, तो जैसे हमने पावर हटा दी तो वो वापस से अपनी जगह पे आ जाएंगे, तो मतलब जैसे बेसिकली बिकॉज ऑफ रीसेटिंग सॉफ्ट एरर कैन बी रिमूव्ड, बट अगर हार्ड एरर है तो वो सही नहीं हो सकता, मतलब सर ऐसा कुछ है.
सर मैं
सेतु तुम क्या कह रहे थे?
so maybe hard errors are just like depending on the structures, the physical structures that we make on the chips, like all these things which we have discussed up till now are direct consequence of how we are manufacturing the chips. So all the gate oxide thickness and all these things, so they're depending on how like the hardware, like not hardware but the physical construction of the chip, whereas the soft errors are not really in my control. Like for example on the slide I was reading, so these are like okay fine, I really can't do anything about them. I mean, those are not like the physical aspect of the chip, right?
Okay, Munon, you were saying
yes,
something?
sir. Hard errors are there that occur through process defect or circuit bugs, I can say like that. And soft errors are those that occur through no failure of the circuit, but due to an external source that causes the data to change, like that way.
Okay, so आप लोग सब कहीं कहीं पे ठीक हो और कहीं कहीं पे गलत हो. So hard errors are those errors which once they appear, they are kind of there. So you run the test 2 times, 10 times, 20 times, they will be there. Okay. And you power off the switch, the chip, you power it up again, those errors remain. These are hard errors. Soft errors, on the other hand, they are like अगर अभी error आया, आपने चिप को रीबूट कर दिया, वो एरर चला जाएगा. ऐसा होता है? Microsoft Windows, so many times we reboot.
Yes,
That is a
sir.
software error. So soft error. So मैं just example मैं Windows का दिया है, but yeah, you know, it's called a soft error because it is transient in nature. It happened, and then it may actually not worry you in the next cycle or subsequently. Okay, so the hardware is fine, but something happened then, and the computation went awry. If I redo the computation, it will be fine. Such an error is called soft error. Why do soft errors occur? Soft errors can occur because of things like coupling and crosstalk. But coupling and crosstalk is also reproducible. So usko pata nahi that they are the boundary of hard errors and soft errors because they are reproducible. But soft errors in the true nature are not reproducible by you. Okay, they are typically said to occur when a high energy particle, like an alpha particle, alpha particle, or a neutron, high energy neutron, comes and strikes the silicon surface. So you remember alpha particles and neutrons and all those things from your physics?
Yes.
या भूल गए? आपको अच्छा वो भी काम का है VLSI में? वो सब बेकार नहीं पढ़ाया था, वो काम का था. So alpha particles come, they strike the silicon, and when they strike the silicon, they actually lead to as is shown in this image, a track of electrons and holes there. Okay, now you realize that there is this source and drain region which are charged and which are, there is a voltage that is applied there, and these electron hole pairs, they start to segregate. So that as soon as electron hole pairs start, जो देखो जब तक electron और hole साथ साथ हैं, there is no charge, there is no current. But as soon as you separate electrons and holes and you say अब यहाँ पे electron ज़्यादा हो गए, यहाँ पे hole ज़्यादा हो गए, now there is a voltage difference that starts to appear. There is a current flow that starts to appear. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
So what this means is that आपके ऐसे करंट स्पाइक एक आ जाएगा, सब कुछ शांत पड़ा है, पूरी मेमोरी शांत पड़ी है, पूरा आपका डाई शांत पड़ी है, बट एक पार्टिकल ने आके कहीं स्ट्राइक करा एंड देयर इज अ करंट एंड वोल्टेज स्पाइक दैट अपीयर्ड. नाउ if this voltage spike passes on to the next, say, flop or NAND gate or whatever, it can lead to a faulty calculation. If this spike is more than the SNM of your cell, memory cell, for example, it will flip the memory cell. So the contents of the memory cell will go from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. Now, does this mean that the cell has gone bad? No, you can still write a 0 and you can still write a 1 into the memory cell. There is no hardware error, but the contents have got corrupted. It's a soft error. Okay? Are you able to see this? Hello? Any questions?
No, sir, it's clear.
Yeah. So in fact, there are ways to handle these soft errors, and we have just on, I think earlier this week, we were awarded second best poster prize in a school which studies effect of radiations on embedded systems used in space. So there's this workshop that happens. So it was 16th International Workshop, and we were awarded the second best poster prize for one of the methods that we had proposed in our work recently. So I'm not sure if you would know Kamakshi Pandey. She is a senior for all of you. She graduated this year, and we had put a paper in there, and we won that prize. So there are ways to mitigate this effect, and there are ways to estimate कि यहाँ पे susceptibility क्या है. Okay, so one of the ways to mitigate the effect is using what we call as diced latches, dual interconnected latches. Okay, so you change the circuit structure. You change the circuit structure so that even when there is some stream of charge that, or even when there is some noise on one end, there is another place where you would sink this noise very quickly. Okay, so you split the device into two. So there is if you want to make a device which is, say, 1 micron wide, you would make 0.5 micron here and make 0.5 micron here. So even if a particle comes and strikes here, this 0.5 micron remains safe. यहाँ पे वो 300 मिलीवोल्ट का बम्प लाना भी चाह रहा है, इधर तो 0 बम्प है, तो एवरेज होके वो 150 मिलीवोल्ट का बम्प हो जाएगा, फॉर एग्जाम्पल. How far or how far apart you place connected nodes. So you need to do more routing, but if you place closely related nodes farther away, then you can reduce the probability of soft errors. So all these things you can do. Dice latch or dual interlock feedback latches and C element structures. So unfortunately the campus is closed and therefore you cannot see that, but अगर आप मेरे ऑफिस के बाहर आओगे तो आपको दिखेगा that there are papers and posters put there which talk about these radiation hardening of memories and flip-flops and stuff like that. Okay, so this is also a very interesting field. This radiation hardening has become very relevant today, because today the charge that you store on your latch or in your DRAM cell or anywhere, it is so small that even a particle which is regularly available at ground level can cause an error. See, when we were working in 65 nanometers, at that time, or even in 90 nanometers, 65 with 90, at that time, the kind of particles that could cause an error, you would find them only rarely. And that too, you would find them in an aeronautical application or in a space application. But in today's technologies, जब आपकी कार्स के अंदर 7 FinFET वाले चिप्स लग रहे हैं, तो दो 7 FinFET के अंदर the particles that can actually spoil your computations and can lead to an accident, that kind of energy particles are available at ground level. So cars are readily impactable if you use those chips, and therefore you need to use schemes that do radiation hardening. You also therefore use error correction codes very prominently in advanced technologies. Okay. Yeah. So with that, I would say we would close this course. Let us say that this is the last slide, which talks to you about what are the possible areas of research in radiation hardened circuits and so on. Okay. But let this be the last slide of the course, and if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and then we can wish you all the best for the exams.
Sir,
And
so
hope to see you soon.
arithmetic circuits won't be included
Any
in our
question?
NSEM examination.
No, we're not covering arithmetic circuits. They are standard and they are readily available in all the books. So we decided not to cover it. Instead, we thought that we would spend more time with topics which are not readily available in the books, and I could give you some knowledge about them. That's why we spent more times on SRAMs and sequential circuits and stuff like that. You rarely get questions on arithmetic circuits in your interviews, etc. Also, you would rarely get them. No one asks about them.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, we talk about the warranty of a device which has integrated circuit in it. So the concept that we just taught in the beginning of the class, that lifetime of a IC.
Bathtub curve, yes.
Yes, sir. So, sir, is that directly linked with that, or the warranty of a device is a different thing?
Yeah. So when a customer says that I want to give a 5 years warranty, he will tell you that okay, your chip should function for 10 years. 99.9% of your chips should function for 10 years. That is the requirement he will put to you. Now there are 20 other chips on that same component, same product. So when all those 20 components, they are passing only 0.999% of the time and so on. So you will see that after 5 years, one component can fail, or after 6 years, the first component will fail probabilistically. So they very neatly say 5 years warranty to you. So that actually वारंटी का मतलब ही नहीं रहता. जो ही वारंटी पीरियड खत्म होता है, आप देखते हो सर्किट्स या चिप्स फेल करना शुरू करते हैं, because that is the end of life for them. You must have noticed this. जो ही वारंटी पीरियड खत्म होता है, उसी के बाद फेलियर आता है. ऐसा देखा है आपने? या भी एक्सपीरियंस नहीं हुआ?
Yes, every time.
Yeah. because it is tuned like that. It is designed like that. Okay. So anything else? नहीं और कोई सवाल? So great guys, all the best. Do well in your exams. And if you're intending to take up one of the 2 courses that I'm offering next semester, we would meet again. If we don't meet again, then anyways, do well and dream big. Only when you dream big, you will achieve big things. Okay? All the best.
Thank you
Have
so
fun.
much, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
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 Sir,
Yes.
so like I didn't attend one of the previous class. So like, could you tell like what other course you're offering in the next semester?
So one course is this memory design course.
Yeah.
The other course is called Creativity, Innovation, and Inventive Problem Solving. So this is a course in which I will talk about creativity and innovation. And there is a scheme for inventive problem solving which is called as TRIZ. I might have mentioned this to you in the class sometime, but yeah, TRIZ is a method of systematic innovation where you will use the resources that are available in the system or in the environment to solve the problems, engineering problems there. It's a very powerful technique. I am really fascinated by it, and I have also taken certifications on TRIZ up till level 3. Maybe I will get level 4 also soon. And the contents that I will take up in this course can also help you take level 1 certification after the course. So this course will, in this course, the creativity course will first talk about the basics of what is creativity and how actually each one of us is creative and can learn to be creative. What are the blocks that prevent us from being creative and so on. We'll talk about innovation because creativity and innovation, many people get confused. Oh, I am very innovative. Now, innovation and innovative or creative लोग बहुत बार mix up करते हैं, confuse होते हैं. So we'll differentiate between innovation and creativity and how to really innovate and not just be creative. We will talk about that. And in the second half of the course, we will talk about TRIZ. So that's the course, the other course that I'm taking. This is a part of entrepreneurship minor for the BTech students. So those students who intend to take to earn an entrepreneurship minor, they can use this course. Otherwise, I highly recommend it for all the PhD students. PhD students can do really well by using these schemes, the TRIZ techniques, to solve the problems that they experience in their PhD. In my PhD, when I used TRIZ, I really benefited from it. It was a very big advantage to me to have TRIZ by my side when I was doing my PhD. So PhD students, I would strongly recommend that you learn TRIZ, whether you do it through this course or you do it online through some other course or whatever. But if you want to be inventive and innovative in your PhD work, you should definitely do this course. That is my feeling. My PhD students, I will strongly recommend them to take this course.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes, Guruvi. Sahil. Yes.
sir, will you have your office hours tomorrow?
I was not planning to because the classes end today supposedly. But do we need an office hours tomorrow?
Yes,
If it
sir,
is
I have
needed,
some
I
doubts.
can. Okay, I will have office hours tomorrow. No problem.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So can I have a word with you for 5 minutes?
Sure. So, okay, guys, all the best. And again, dream big.
Hello,
Okay,
sir.
bye-bye. Have a good time.
Sir, I have a doubt
Yes,
in
Guruveer?
testing. I mean, lifetime test for a slot. I mean, for a lot. So, any product is the combination of many lots, right?
Any
Like,
okay, so if you say that I want 1 million chips, those 1 million chips will come from many lots, because in any given lot there will be only 5,000 chips, for example. So for 1 million chips, many lots would be used to create those 1 million chips for a customer. Is that what
no,
you
sir.
meant?
I mean, how lifetime of the product will be measured, will be tested. Like for mobile, it is the combination of many lots. How
A mobile is a combination of many products. Each product has its own failure rate. So you mathematically estimate the lifetime of the product based on the failure rates of each of the incoming components, each of the incoming products. Okay, so there are mathematical formulae to do it. It's a completely different, for example, this age testing and lifetime estimation, that's a completely different department in a fab. So it's very detailed analysis that needs to be done.
Okay, sir.
Okay. But yeah, you do it mathematically. It is doable mathematically. After you have the test results of the individual components, you can connect them and you can arrive at the lifetime of the product mathematically. Tools from Siemens actually help you do this. There are tools from Siemens and many other MATLAB and other places. They can model lifetime of products. There are models for that. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All the best. Bye.
Bye, sir.
सर
Yes, Mukesh.
सर आपसे 5 मिनट बात करनी थी, मैं लास्ट में वेट कर लूंगा। मैं मतलब बाहर,
हाँ, स्वप्निल को भी कुछ बात करनी है तो हाँ,
मैं बाहर वेट कर लूंगा सर।
ठीक है।
Hello.
Yes, Swapnil. So Guruveer and Ritik, do you have something to ask?
Nothing, sir. Maybe it will help us. Not that is why I'm waiting.
No. Swapnil wants to ask something else.
Hello. Okay.
He's not asking anything about the course.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
I'm stopping the recording. Yeah.